Hi everyone, welcome to this micro-teaching course. I'm really excited to start this journey with you because what we are about to learn will make you better teachers, communicators, leaders, and of course learners. Today, we are going to explore a fascinating insight into micro-teaching. We'll look at where it started, the hurdles it has faced, and how it is evolving in nowadays digital world. Whether you are training to become a teacher or corporate trainer or an educational innovator, understanding microteaching will be a huge asset in your professional toolkit. Now, let's see the learning objective for today's sessions. By the end of these sessions, you will be able to describe the historical development of microteaching. Second, you have to be able to identify common challenges in microteaching. For this case, you can find references of microteaching practices from any trusted sources. And the last one is that you have to understand how microteaching has adapted in the digital era. Now, we know that the rapid change of technology also influences teaching techniques and methods, teaching media, and of course, teaching assessment. Now, let's take a glance at the historical developments of microteaching, and let's start from the very beginning. Microteaching was born in early 1960s at Stanford University, proposed by Dwight W. Allen and his teams. Their goal was clear: simplify the complex process of learning to teach by breaking it into smaller, manageable units. Now, let's see the key features of early microteaching. They consist of 5 features, such as the first, teaching very short lessons. It's for about 5 to 10 minutes. Next, it is conducted for small group of students. Then it is focused on one specific skills like questionings or giving clear instructions. So it is not full basis of teaching, start from the opening to the closing, but it's more specific. For example, on giving the explanations, giving the instructions, or opening only and closing, and so on and so forth. The last 2 things are immediate feedback from peers and supervisors, and a chance to reteach after reflection and improvement. The next period of history was by the 1970s and 1980s. Microteaching spread across the world from the USA to Europe, Asia, and Africa. Teacher education programs everywhere started adapting the key features to train both new teachers and even experienced professionals. Then in the 1990s, the development of video technology transformed microteaching even more. Now, teachers could record their practice, observe themselves critically, and reflect on their own actions in microteaching. So it is such a powerful way to grow. Next, in the 2010s, a new wave began, such as a competency-based education focused on mastering observable teaching behaviors. Researchers like Fernandez in 2020 emphasized microteaching's role in building pedagogical content knowledge. It is the unique knowledge plan that expert teachers possess. And today, in the 2020s, microteaching is being reshaped again, this time by digital technology, remote learning, and a stronger focus on emotional intelligence and inclusivity. That was a glance at historical development. Now let's move on to discussing the challenges of microteaching. Even though microteaching is a powerful tool, it is not without its challenges. Let's look at some of the most common obstacles students and lecturers face. The first one is dealing with the artificiality of the setting. Sometimes microteaching can feel fake compared to a real classroom. It is because it is only has a small number of audience. It is like the pre-arranged lesson plan, and it is a very controlled time frame. In this case, all people can create a setting that is quite different from the full chaotic reality of the real world teaching. Moreover, teachers sometimes find that skill mastered in microteaching don't transfer perfectly into complex classroom environments. The second challenge is dealing with time pressure. Accordingly, microteaching lessons are short. Maybe it's just 10 to 15 or 15 to 20 minutes. And this creates intense pressure. Then, the pressure also makes teachers rush through content. Another thing is that the essential interaction with students, like checking for understanding, might be sacrificed. Regarding those challenges, we can say that learning how to manage pacing effectively is one of the hidden lessons of microteaching. Other than time pressure, performance anxiety is also a challenge in microteaching. Take an example. Standing in front of peers, supervisors, and cameras can make students feel nervous. Here are some common reactions. The first, over preparing and becoming robotic. Okay? And then the second one, freezing under the pressure. Freezing, yeah? And then the next one, avoiding risks that could lead the authentic learning moments. Therefore, managing nerves and emotion is part of the microteaching growth process. The fourth challenge is difficulty giving and receiving feedback. Constructive feedback is central to microteaching. However, it is not easy to give. It's not easy to provide the constructive feedback. For examples, the first one, giving honest but kind feedback takes skills. We have to be able to give feedback objectively, while we have to watch out our languages. Another example, receiving critical feedback without feeling demoralized is challenging. In this case, we have to be open to criticism and suggestions, because we may miss one part of the pace in the microteaching, and then, for example, we forgot some things, and maybe we have to discuss something, but we missed that. So therefore, the criticism and suggestions can help us actually to be better. And then for our microteaching practices, so we will get the better and the better times by having criticism and suggestions. Then now, some programs teach feedback skills before beginning microteaching. It is to make the process of microteaching more supportive and effective. Now, let's explore how microteaching has adapted to the digital revolutions as what is happening today. For an example, online tools or virtual space. We can start discussing the virtual microteaching. During and after the COVID-19 pandemic, microteaching shifted online. In this case, Students can now deliver lessons via platforms like Zoom or Google Meet. Some changes happen to teaching skills and teaching aids. For instance, the new presentation skills, such as maintaining eye contact with a webcam, clear, engaging voice and modulations, and then we have to focus on all of the materials. For example, from the first until the last materials. Then we have to focus seeing the webcam. So I think it will be a new skills for the students for practicing microteaching. Another change is digital engagement tools, using polls, chat boxes, breakout rooms to simulate students' participations. So like in Zoom, for having a kind of a small group discussions, then we can create the breakout rooms. For example, one breakout rooms for one topics. Another breakout rooms will be for another topic. So we can simulate the students' participations. And it could be after the small group discussion, then all students come to the main room to discuss what they have already got based on their discussions. Consequently, this shift has forced teachers to adapt quickly. But luckily, it also opened up global teaching opportunities. Another discussion refers to video-enhanced reflections. Teachers now can record their micro-teaching sessions and use structured reflection tools to evaluate themselves. So, teachers can ask themselves by asking the following questions, such as, where did I engage my students successfully? Or where did I lose their attention? Or how effective were my questioning techniques? Some pieces of research argue that self-review through video has become one of the most effective ways to accelerate skill development. The last change we can talk about is inclusive microteaching. Modern microteaching increasingly emphasizes inclusive practices. The inclusive practices can cover, for example, ensuring materials are culturally and responsive. Second, using language that includes all learners. And the next, the inclusive practices can also cover supporting various learning styles, for example, visual style or auditory or kinesthetic. In closing, microteaching has come a long way from small live practice sessions at Stanford University to global digital classroom today. And challenges, yes, of course, there are challenges, but through focused practice, thoughtful reflections, and embracing technology, you can transform microteaching into one of the most powerful learning tools in your teaching journey. All right, that's all for today. Thank you for being a part of these sessions, and next sessions we'll discuss rubric and metrics for microteaching practice assessment. So don't miss it. There will be more insight you will get later in the next sessions. Have a very great day. See you next sessions. Bye.